Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here today. Um, for folks who don't know, you've just seen a little trailer of CryptoKnights, and what you're looking at are future cast members on the show. So I'd like to introduce you to Fred. Fred, do you want to do a quick intro about yourself?
My name's Bertrand. That's one of a bit of a 2017 school 2017 crypto. So been through a few waves. Built some businesses, sold some, bought a lot of coins, held them. And currently still founder at finder.com. We do a lot of retail marketing for exchanges.
Thank you, Fred. Introducing Nenter. Go ahead, Nenter.
Yeah, thanks, Riaz. So my name's Nenter. I am currently the global CEO for Bitmart Exchange. We've been around for the past 7 years, 12 million plus users globally, 26 billion derivatives volume daily, 4 billion plus spot volume daily. Pleased to be here.
And last but not least, Coach K. Hey, what's up?
I'm Coach Day. I've been working in the crypto space for about 12 and a half years, or invested at least for 12 and a half years. Started in education, worked in like the influencer KOL side of things, and then moved a little bit more into the trading and advisory roles, and just trying to help the space become bigger and better, and connect the people who don't have the knowledge with the knowledge and experience, and helping the founders, especially with all the experience from the failures that we've learned over time. And I think that's really a valuable skill for this space. So that's who I am. Hello, everybody.
Well, guys, I'm delighted to have you on the show, and I think it's going to be a really exciting season ahead. The topic for today is after the hype, right? You know, what happens in 2026, and crypto is starting to go mainstream. There's a lot of good things happening for crypto that, this year has been transformational. So I'd like to take a deeper dive into what you guys think is going to survive. And, we've seen a lot of business models, from different cycles in 2017, 2021, 2024. I'd like to hear your views on what the future looks like, who are the survivors, who's going to make it. So, Fred, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I think a lot of the OG business models, and some of them have sort of gone through, improved themselves in exchanges, but dexes, launch pads, to some extent they come and go. I think where the growth, I think, is going to be in RWA, like real world assets, like a lot of these DATs and stuff. I think they're going to need business models. There's like 40 Solana DATs. They're like, what are they actually going to do and differentiate? I think they're going to need a role of business, and those businesses are going to be really interesting about what they're actually going to do. I think that's where a lot of innovation is going to come. They got a lot of money, they got free cash flow coming through, but they need to do something. My forecast is they're going to build an exchange. That's what most people do. At some point, you either build a burp DEX, you run a stablecoin, or run like a chain, which I don't think happens as much anymore. That's kind of done. And then eventually you get into burps at some point in time, because everyone loves gamblers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Fred. I think so far what we've seen, the ones that have found product market fit are the exchanges, PayFi / stable coins, and prediction markets, or sort of more hyper gambling, right? So those, to me, those three have done the best. And look, over the last couple of years, and coming from the venture capital side, we've seen I would say, over the last 3 years, at least, in the 4 digits of pitches across different subsectors. And I think for the most part, there's a lot of founders that they didn't really optimize for the business model, but they optimized for the token itself, which I think is starting to change, because as regulations are starting to open up, folks are they care more about equity now. Before, no one cared about the safe. It's like, okay, yeah, fine, the safe's whatever, but we have the token warrant. That's sort of the main piece that investors care about. Now it's a little bit different. So I think going forward, you're going to need, regardless of which type of business model, it's really going to be focused on the core business. Are you actually solving a problem It could look, for the most part, yeah, you could see some interesting consumer dApps come out. But whether or not, whether or not you need sort of full crypto rails decentralization, that's another topic.
So you feel it's coming back to kind of fundamentals of the business, is that, rather than the hype.
Absolutely. And, I think the market participants have matured. So, back in the last cycle, everyone understands this is a very momentum driven asset class. So, everyone sort of goes with okay, we pump these tokens, we ride this momentum, flip it back to Ethereum, Bitcoin, whatnot, right? But I think for the most part now, a lot of participants that are still around are, you have to dig deeper. Your diligence has to be more thorough, and you're looking at it more like a traditional investor. So I think that's not going to change. It's not a revenue narrative, right? I mean, you don't sort of go backwards in time.
Coach, what's your view?
Well, I think it's just keep it simple is what is the problem with the space and beyond the hype is that there's no revenue, there's no models to actually make money, there's no tokens that are accruing value from any revenue that's been created. And so you have these tokens that are said they have a utility, but they don't have utility. They don't have any really real reason for buying them. So what you need to do is start tying a revenue generating business that solves a problem into the token itself. You don't need to put all of it in the token, but you need to somehow support the token for the long term. And it needs to be a model built around that. I've been building these models for 5-6 years now. And really it's always about, can you make money? Do you solve a problem? Like if I look at a project and I'm like, it doesn't benefit me and I don't care, I'm never going to give you my money. And I already know no one else will care either. They're just going to buy it for the hype. It'll pump and dump and it'll go away. And so, yeah, we all know dexes and casinos and stuff are going to be around forever because they make money. But what really is going to make money for them, the users that are trading the assets, is there's no asset that's actually valuable. Why would you buy it in the first place? And I think we're getting more mature as a market. So beyond the hype, it's looking for real value. And once we get to the real value and we solve problems, the token models make sense and they make money, then the token, the project, the equity, all of it will become more valuable. So that's kind of how I try to wrap it around with the projects I'm working with. I think that if we all did that, it would be much better than focusing on meme coins and stuff like that.
So Coach, what's one metric that you would look for in the project, right? What's that metric that you feel that the project's going to make it, it's going to survive?
Most important metric is, do you solve a problem? Like, is it making my life easier, your life easier, the average user in crypto's life easier? If it's not, that's the first metric, which is like, okay, instantly I'm not going to invest. I'm not going to waste my time with that project. And then second thing would be revenue. Like, can you make money? Are you selling a product or service that like people will actually buy? Or are you selling like a Telegram bot that already exists? It's free online, right? So what are you actually doing that's solving a problem, making me money, making the users money? Because if you're not, there's really no point in wasting your time.
How about you guys? What do you think? What the one metric?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is the most fundamental, a fundamental part of, starting and building a business is, does it solve a real problem? And are people willing to pay for it? I think that I don't have too much to add to that. If I had to just choose one thing.
I have a different view. I don't think people care about revenue in crypto still. Otherwise, Chainlink would be worth zero, and so would Immutable. And they're not. I think the number one thing is, can you tell a good story? It's always been the number one thing in crypto. Can you create a narrative? You back it up. Are you a good storyteller? Are you a founder? Are you persuasive? Are you charismatic? I think that's all that people care about still. And because if you were actually to do some DD on this stuff, I reckon it doesn't work out. And I think it all comes down to the story.
I also think that that's a last cycle projects, right? Those are projects that already had the community, they made money, and now they're loyal, just like people are loyal to Hex, which is just complete and understand. So yeah, community is going to always be a part of it. But for new projects coming out, it's going to be way harder than it was like when the chain links and immutables and stuff came out of last cycle and the cycle before.
Oh, I guess I would say it would sort of be, for something to succeed, it would need to be a combination of both, because let's say you have 3 projects with this similar product, similar sort of, but one the charismatic founder that's sort of the face of the project that can really drive that narrative. I mean, even when we look at, someone like Elon, right? I mean, without him, it's very hard for, to have that same type of success. So I actually believe it's a combination of both.
I guess I was just, the question is slightly jaded because it's like, what the one metric, right? I'm just going to say, I think in crypto, that's like high index. I think the next one is it unique in some way, shape, or form, right? You want to, the big ones that seem to pop off are like, okay, this one is an RWA, or this one's an L2, or this one's an L1. And then there's an other category. I reckon all the 0 to like multi-billion are in the other category. And I think that's where normally you're going to get these outside runners. I get that it's very, I don't know what that's, it's just, are you different in some way, shape, or form? We're looking for something new,
And I think just following on from that, when you're investing in projects, what do you guys look for? Anyone?
I think I start a lot with the founder itself. Who I'm gonna say, like, it's like, I think there's a certain, and I think it's almost impossible to determine what's someone gonna do, because I think the actual end outcome is how persistent are you willing to be. And if you're like doggedly persistent and not necessarily that clever, I'll back that any day of the week, because I think some projects, they take time, and obviously there's pivots and things like that. But you look at a project like Kendall was like 2021, class of 2021, in the doghouse for like 3 years, no one touched it, and then literally had PMF with these restaking tokens. Can you imagine the founder every day waking up for 3 years and his token just getting sold off, his team leaving, they're vested, they're all done, and he's still going? That's the kind of, I love people like that.
Sheer persistence, yeah. Absolute persistence.
Yeah, I think the team is obviously very important. It's, especially in crypto and in early stage startups, the ability to pivot, the ability to really understand who your end users are, the sort of their behavior, what they need, because ultimately you're going to be reiterating it multiple times to get it right. And I think that's in addition to obviously, product market fit, being able to, lots of projects are able to scale users very quickly, but they can't retain it. So, if you're not retaining at least, 30, 40% of your users within that 3 to 6 month time frame after your launch, I think I would consider that a red flag. Yeah.
I'd say there's one word that can sum up what I look for in a founder, and it's certainty. There is no I'm going to or we want to. It's I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm a psychopath about it. Literally, I wake up every day and I'll grind, fight, scratch, claw. I will do whatever I got to do so I'm successful, because nothing will stop me except for myself. That type of mentality, I will put my money behind those type of people, because those guys are the ones who actually are successful in anything. You look at any entrepreneur, the ones who are like the psychopathically going to work, working 18-hour days and will not quit, those people are the ones that I want to give my money to. Of course, the idea matters. Of course, if it's solving a problem matters. But really, the founder, that person has to be that kind of guy or girl, so that I can go, okay, this person, I know they're not going to lose. And if they do, I'll be okay to lose my money with that.
So how do you know that? I had one more thing. So yeah. No, I was just going to ask you, spot on, but how do you actually know that, like, in that particular example, it would take you several years to find out that that founder stuck it through. Now, if you're investing in that founder, he's come to you 3 years ago, how would you know he's the guy?
I think you gotta look at all their failures, right? Like how big a hits they had, like what's the hardest thing they've done. If they say, oh, the hardest thing I did is I worked a summer job, like at the casino. It's like, mate, right? Like, what about like work 3 jobs, get to college, still be in debt, get out of debt, then go and like have a massive failure, and then pick yourself back up and keep going? All right, that guy I'm gonna probably back.
I'll add one thing though. I think from my experience, at least those founders that have been very successful on the Web2 side, and came to launch projects. One interesting statistic for me, at least, when I saw projects and invested, because of their track record in their prior life, I thought, okay, probably they can do it again. But interestingly enough, none of those tended to work out. So that's just one. I mean, maybe it's different for you guys from projects you've seen, but I've certainly seen amazing, track record founders that crushed it in the Web2 world, whether or not it's gaming or any other sector, but just couldn't do it. I don't know if it's because they've already had that success and it's not they're not as hungry anymore, but it's certainly something I've seen that's pretty.
I build on that, and I think that's because the Web2's story is not as big, right? They undervalue that. They see it as like sort of soft skills, and it's not like hard engineering. Like Web2, it's more of a timing, a market and timing play, quick engineering, fast follow, test and learn. Whereas I think a crypto founder has nuanced ability to influence, to create emotion, to wrap someone in a story that they had their hardcore believers in that burst, they follow them, and they know the value of that. They don't undervalue that. Whereas in Web2, you're told to focus on the customer and not on the token holder, and the two different marketing camps. I think that's probably where there's a challenge.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Web2 is a totally different ballgame. We have, there's a lot more money as well that when you're doing well in Web2, you can raise and you can actually make a company do really well. Like crypto companies for the last cycles in the past, we're doing like $5 million, $2 million raises. You just couldn't sustain that. You didn't have the marketing, the abilities to do it. So you really had to put like the real work in. And mainly, I don't just look at their crazy psychopath like that, but it's what's their experience, of course. And for me, it's like you fail, I fail, and that's why I succeed. So if you failed in crypto or you worked with a bunch of projects and some were successful and some weren't, and you can take that knowledge and build a product that actually you're working to help us as the industry, that's something that's going to hit for people. And that's where you get the nice story and the emotional attachment as well.
Yeah, I'd build on that a little bit because I think there's another skill the founder needs, and that is either to be able to write like really well. Like some people, they just write tweets and they write blogs, and that's like their channel. Or they're really good at communicating by video, where they just get on stage and they build their cult around them that way. And I think that understanding of engineering and understanding of that softer skills, that concoction, they normally have a channel or something. I think that's another thing to look for.
How important is narrative when you invest? Markets move with narratives, and what do you guys look for?
We look for what's the hot thing, right? When you're investing in a narrative, you look at things like Aster come out, and the first thing you should be thinking of is, if this is doing super well as a perps dex, what other perp decks are there? Which one does Bybit have one? Does Bitmart have one? Who has a perps dex, and are they already out? And the second you see that, you're like, okay, this probably is going to do it. You can chuck in like 10K into all of them, let's say, and those exact exchanges are likely going to pump. And what did you see happen? Aster went, and then Apex went, and all these other, even ones that like no one even knew were pumping like 50x, 100x out of the gate, which were pretty much dead projects. So I think when you're looking at narratives, is what is really, really hot and making people money. Now they got, a little bit of FU money to play around with, and they're going to chuck it into other stuff, which can make them more money.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's not too dissimilar from traditional equity markets as well, where when you have a certain sector that's moving, everything sort of moves along with it, right? I remember 5 years ago, everyone was pumping up the SPACs, the EV plays, and then the marijuana stocks, right? So everything sort of moves together. So again, I think to Fred's point, narrative is it's super important to drive price action, and ultimately price action is sort of what we're, whether or not you're a long-term investor or short to medium-term trader, that's what is important, right? But again, the crypto, just more momentum, sort of the beta is a bit higher, but for the most part, it's the same sort of, the same playbook, I think.
Fred, an entry player?
So I think I completely agree. I think my other thought is on narrative is, I think there are like some long-term narratives that take time. So I met Yat Stew in 2018. He was listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. He got kicked off because everyone hated him. And he was talking about NFT gaming. And in 2018, we'd almost talk about NFT gaming. And he had conviction. Like, he bought the CryptoKitties studio. Like, this guy, he had a vision about what the future of NFTs is going to be, right? And I think it's a timing thing. It's like you've got these guys pushing these narratives, building the tech, and they're rolling their own stuff, which doesn't exist. There's no off-the-shelf frameworks and things like that. And they're taking the arrows in the back. They've got the raccoon hat on, and like they're going through the forest, and like 2 of them survive, and 5 die, and I think those narratives, they're the ones to be like you can catch one of those. Like, so you're talking about Coach talking about a wave that's like cresting, the one that's like forming up. I think you got to find these real zealot, passionate, cultist people, and back then, that's where your 5 or 10K as well can really go.
So guys, you are the stars of season 2 of CryptoKnights. I'd love to hear how you feel you're going to take the show to the next level, what you're going to bring to it.
I'll be real raw. I'm going to be me. I think you need someone who just calls it as it is. A lot of people in general in this space want to be too friendly. I don't think it's about being friendly. I think it's about people watching a show to get something of value so they understand something that they didn't understand before. And in crypto, it's very difficult. So we need to break it down. We need to simplify it. And I bring that to the table. I will also call bullshit when I see it. And I think when something's really good, I'll put my resources and my time into helping it. And I think that's what we need in the space. It can't be just pushing meme coins on shows. It's got to be pushing real products, why they're really good. What's the benefit for the user? How does it make your life better, my life better? And does it make it their life easier to come into this space? So I think my focus will be on that. And then just making the show fun and bringing a little bit of personality.
Awesome.
No, I think it's very important to objectively look at every project. Look, if we have 30 projects, and I'll be very objective. I will reject all of them if I don't see anything fit, right? And, bring sort of my background on the venture capital investing side. But ultimately, if we do invest, I think, one thing that our exchange can help with a lot is not only on the listing side, which, everyone knows distribution is very key, especially for these token projects, but also, leverage our resources on the marketing side to make sure, through our channels, be able to really get the story, get the narrative, and get it all out there.
Fantastic.
I think I can assess the character of, I've seen a lot of people, and sort of bring a bit of some lateral thoughts to everyone. And I think one of the things I've noticed about a lot of projects is they don't necessarily balance as much growth with engineering. And I think I can ask a lot of pertinent questions around that. And I think that's where, sometimes like you hear all these great ideas and then it's like, well, how are you going to distribute that? How are you going to get that out there? And then, I think that's where I can help.
Awesome. And if there's any projects out here today, then we are casting for season 2. Find our director, Sam, right here and talk to him, please. Okay. Now, Chance, I'm truly excited to have you on the show for the next season. Any last words that you want to share before we wrap?
Coach always had a word. Come on. I think what we're trying to do here is actually really build a value for the space. We don't always get it. YouTube's kind of fallen off. We need something to project what's really good in this space and who's really great in this space to the forefront. And I think television is definitely the way that we can do that. I'm really excited to work with Riaz and the team, and we're going to take this to the next level. And it's going to be not only educational, but it'll also be fun and a little bit of exciting.
Absolutely. I think we're going to make sure this season is going to be the one that really brings crypto to the mainstream in a positive way.
Amazing.
Yeah, bring the retail in.
Certainly. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your time. Excited. Cheers. Bye-bye.